welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another fun and deeply meaningful conversation. Today, we're going to talk about how do we get human relationships just right. Goldilocks is reminding us, how do we show up in human relationships where we're neither too hot nor too cold, not too hard, not too soft? How do we show up in that even keel, in our place of balance, where we are balancing our masculinity of goal setting and purpose and driving results, and our femininity of nurturing and compassion and life affirming? When we bring those two together, our yin and our yang, our masculinity and femininity, we all embody, we are going to get every relationship just right. How do we do that? How do we get coached through the process to get that? And how, when we find our inner peace in that balance, how magically the universe starts presenting the right partners and the right relationships, loving relationship in terms of a man and a woman, as well as friendships and support systems, everything starts falling into place. And you are going to have the opportunity to talk to a wonderful coach who specializes in relationships. So Marcin, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks. I am so honored to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Kaz. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. So Marcin and I have known each other for a little while now. I consider him a friend. We are professional collaborators and strategic partners. The work we are doing together and things we are looking to enhance, all of it is going to dovetail nicely based on this conversation, and you are going to get a glimpse of the amazing work Marcin does. So Marcin, as we get started, can you give us a brief introduction to how you got to the space of relationship coaching and relationship counseling? Because you do that as a result of other things that happened in life while your career and your life has been very different.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. You know what? Long story short, I won't go into many details, but just give a brief glimpse of my story, of my journey. It all started in Poland, the country where I was born. I originally came to the United States when I was 12 years old with my family. And when they came to the United States, it was very difficult to acclimate to this country because my parents, we did not speak English. English was our second language. Where in school, elementary school, I had to learn. I had a teacher where she taught me, how to speak second language. And as we got acclimated, my parents found jobs. We purchased a home. I graduated from elementary school. Then I went to high school. From high school, I went on to college. And my passion always was in electronics. I always loved to troubleshoot, fix different electronic components, printed circuit boards, fridge, all those different things. And I was very fortunate. I was one of my three brothers where I was the one that ended up going to college. My younger two brothers, they chose a different path in their lives. And as I was in college, I met a woman, which was my girlfriend. My first girlfriend became my first wife. And we together have been for 15 years and married for 12 years. We have two beautiful children. My son Aiden is, 12, and my daughter Victoria is 8. And when, as a couple, when we were dating, we were in a relationship, and then later on, we decided to get married. The life in the beginning was wonderful. We were on a honeymoon. We traveled. We did different things. We went out. We explored, and we were just growing very nicely together. And then later on, we built a family, and we built a beautiful home. And as the time progressed, children came, and school, work around the house, and a lot of different things, that we are in this routine that we do on daily basis, and more time and energy we were giving to our children, with homework, extracurricular activities, doing different things. And we slowly started to not to spend as much time together as we used to. And over a certain period of time where we became like two strangers, where we grew apart, and that led to a divorce. So 4 years ago, I went through a divorce, and I hit the rock bottom. And what happened was I was the first one in my family to ever go through a divorce. There was no one else. And that was the, I would say, most traumatic life event in my life, because never in my life I thought that, I would go through a divorce. The home that we were living in was a very beautiful home, the home that I always dreamed of. And prior to that divorce, what happened is, I moved out for 3 weeks because we decided, hey, let's take some time apart and see, if we can reconciliate what was not working. And after 3 weeks, when I came back home, it was around this period of time. It was like Christmas and New Year's. I had my children with me. And it was Sunday evening when I got back home. There was no one home. My former wife was outside. She was doing grocery shopping. When she came back home, we started talking. I helped her, unpack the grocery bags. Everything was happening in the kitchen at the countertop. And as we started talking, I'm like, hey, Heidi, I'm moving back in. It's been 3 weeks and so on. And then she's like, hey, no, you're not. I was just stunned, by her decision and her reaction. And I knew that she wasn't the person that I knew, because I felt the energy. I read the body language, and she would not look me in the eyes. She would look downward. And as we started talking, there was no fights, there were no arguments or anything. But it got to the point where she called police. Police came, sheriff came. They listened to her story. They listened to my story. And what was happening, I have a vivid image on my mind, is I was kneeling in the kitchen on my right knee, because my daughter was 3 years old and my son was 7. So, later on after the story, I shared my story to the police officer. My ex, shared her story. Then the police officer says, hey, one of you has to leave the house. So I'm like, okay, then I'm out. I'm done. I had my luggage. It was still unpacked. But before I left, I was kneeling in the kitchen. My 3-year-old daughter, just ran by me. He gave me this big bear hug. She was just, holding me on so strong. And she was crying, Daddy, don't leave. Daddy, don't leave. And at that moment, I was physically there, but mentally, that's the spirit, the soul, I felt like it left the body. The body felt so numb. It felt like a statue. I couldn't even breathe. And like I was out. I didn't even know what was happening. I was in so much stress, anxiety, you name the emotion that I was going through. I probably experienced it. And then later on, my son heard what was going on. He came by, and he came from the side and gave me another hug and started crying as well, because, he saw police, he saw his sister crying, everything that's going on. And, my ex came by and she's pulling him off. Your father's got to leave. Your father's got to leave. And then, as soon as I stood up, I walked towards the main doors. I had my black luggage, still unpacked. I picked it up. I walked out. And you know what? I felt like a stranger. I felt like I was not wanted. I felt like a failure, where my best friend did not want me anymore. Where I left my family behind, my children, my home, where I was not welcome in my own home. All the time, all the effort, everything that we have invested, everything that we have built, I have lost. And I was 35 years old. I had no place to go. If I did not have my family here, my parents, I ended up moving to my parents' house because I had no place to go. If I didn't have my parents here, who knows where I would end up, either homeless, or who knows if I would be here, because there are so many men out there that just commit suicide because they're just so emotionally overwhelmed. So after the whole journey, I hit the rock bottom. I lost my family. I lost my home. I lost my children. I lost myself. I lost my self-identity. I didn't know who I was. For first several months, I was walking numb. I was walking like a zombie. I didn't know what was going on. I would go to work, come back home, sit on the couch, watch TV, and I would just be angry at the whole world, at God, at myself. Why me, right? Why did this happen to me? And you go from living this beautiful, luxurious lifestyle. Now you're going back to paycheck, where you see your friends going out, having fun, having different things, and you're a loser, you're a failure. And the negative thoughts, that I had, the negative self inner dialogue that I had with myself was very bad. I had suicidal thoughts. I cried myself to sleep. I took walks around the park because I did not want to see my parents to see me what I was going through. I was internally, emotionally self-destructing. And it came to the point in my life where I told myself that I cannot do this anymore, that I have to change. I have to do something else because, paying child support, paying child care, paying my bills, all those different things. It's just so emotionally and financially overwhelmed. I couldn't do it. I had no help. I did not ask anyone for help because I was too ashamed. And I was too afraid even to ask anyone for help because, such a beautiful, such a successful family, is going through a divorce. And I was, as I thought that I was the only one in the whole world going through a divorce. And that was a final step in the back. I said, I'm done, I'm over, I cannot do it. So I went because it's brand new to me. I didn't know what I'm getting myself into. The divorce, all I knew is that you got to hire a divorce attorney. That's all I knew. So I started searching. I had to leave work early, so I lost time because I had to go one attorney, second attorney, third attorney, and so on. And finally, one of the attorneys asked me, "Hey, did she file?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So she went into the computer, she checks, and she's like, "She did not file yet, but I have some bad news for you." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" "Well, she put a restraining order against you." And I'm like, "What's that?" I never got into a trouble in law. I never got arrested, nothing, clean record. She's like, for 21 days, you cannot see your kids. You cannot
Wow,
call
I'm
them. You cannot visit
surprised
them.
to hear about the restraining order. Was she American?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's how she knew the system and she worked the system.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how it all started. And then overall, as I continued my journey, I started self-help on my own, where I started reading books. How do I get through the divorce? I went on YouTube. I searched, how do I get through the divorce? I found one of my mentors, which was Les Brown. I hired, I invested in myself, where Les Brown was my coach for 3 months. And I have learned about the power of storytelling. And I have met many wonderful individuals throughout the whole world where we came in, once a week on a Zoom call and we shared our stories. And he helped us also, about this power story. Through Les Brown, I have met a mindset coach that, in the beginning, I did not know anything back then about coaching. I was just so disconnected from the outside world. And when I heard what a coach can do for you and where I was, I'm like, well, I can use all this help because I don't even know who I am. I have no goals, I have no purpose, I have no identity, nothing. And that coaching program was expensive, right? All the savings that I had left, it was basically, that's what it cost me. And I was afraid to spend that money because I would have nothing left, right, for for a rainy day. But I'm like, what, if I don't do anything, if I don't invest in myself, then what will change? Nothing will change. And I asked myself back then, like, what will the worst thing that can happen to me? I already lost it all, right? I already hit the rock bottom. How much farther down can I go? So I'm like, let me do it. And it was January 26, 2021. I have it on my vision board where how much I paid for it. And then, everything that I wrote down that I will achieve. Because I went all in. I bet on myself. I bet on my life. And you know what, Dr. Kaz, that was one of many best decisions that I have done for myself.
I am so happy. I'm so happy to hear you say that, but it also breaks my heart to hear your story. And this is not just one off. This happens to a lot of young men, right? It can happen to women too. It is not one gender or the other that gets caught unaware in a situation like this. And women normally have so many places to go and talk and build that support system, but we raise our boys from childhood. Boys don't feel, boys don't talk about emotions. And so even when guys get together, they don't talk about anything other than the weather and the sports. And even if the whole life is falling apart, they act like everything is okay. how were you able to engage with your friends, if at all? And then the guilt of nobody in your family ever going through a divorce and then staying there with your parents at 35. There are guilt at so many different levels. How did you get yourself through day after day?
It was,
Because most men break down completely in that situation.
yeah, it was really hard because I was so emotionally overwhelmed. I was, going through fear, I was going through anxiety, I was going through depression, and I did not know anything about feelings, anything about emotions. One of my friend, I didn't really share with my friends, later on where they have seen me that, hey, I'm doing things on my own, where we're not doing things as a family, and people called, hey, what's going on? I don't see you on social media with Heidi, with this and that. And I finally told them that, what, hey, we ended up divorcing. And, everyone was very sad and, empathetic, that, unfortunately it did happen and so on. But you are correct. Many men out there, it doesn't matter what age, is also too that the society teaches us, right? Be strong, be tough, not to shed a tear, because this is who you got to be. But what was happening when I was going through this is I was emotionally self-destructing because I had really no one to talk to express what am I going through, how am I feeling, who I had no support system in place. I had no one. I didn't know anything about support groups like we have these days or anything, right? I didn't search for those things. One friend brought up, hey, you should see a therapist or someone. I didn't even know what a therapist is back then, right? Because I didn't have to deal with that like I do now.
So I have to ask, how is the opportunity to engage with your children today? And are you able to have a paternal relationship with them, because you are a loving, caring human being and a dad, and the restraining order probably devastated you? Being asked to leave is one thing. Just the imagery of the children telling you don't leave and you leaving, the image it conjures up for the children is our dad left, but your wife told you had to leave, right? So she was fully in control of the situation, but optically what she created is, while I am kicking you out, I want the children to know that you are leaving. Yeah. Whether she intended or not, that is what she created. And I have watched some of my friends go through it, and I've always told my guy friends, no, you are not walking away. You stand there and have her take the children and walk away from you, because you are not going to be the father that walked out on the children. When the children remember at an emotional level, that's not how they're going to remember you. So I've insisted my guy friends, when they go through this, don't ever turn around, don't ever walk away. You stand right here. Let her walk away, and maybe she can come back after you leave, right?
Right.
So how are the children dealing with it today, and how have you helped them manage through this? Because you have a son and a daughter who went through that emotional trauma right alongside you.
You know what? In the beginning phases, first couple months, it was really hard. I didn't know what was the hardest thing for me is driving, from one home to another, because I could, based on our parental agreement, I could only see him every other weekend and on Tuesdays, and just the adjustment to the new lifestyle after going through this transition and this recovery phase was really hard, because for 15 years I have developed certain routines, certain lifestyle that I was living in. Now I'm all by myself. Now I financially have to support myself, right? I have to pay child support. And I was going through a lot of anger, I was going through a lot of resentment, I was going through a lot of jealousy, hatred that I had towards my former wife, because I was like, why did you did this to us, to me, to the children? Like, we had it all, right? There was nothing that we didn't need, that we have built. And it was really hard. I didn't know how to deal with it. So one of the self-help books that really have helped me, that it really got me through this, was called The Power Is Within You by Lewis Hayes. And I started reading that book, and it helped me. I have learned about your inner child, what I was going through. I learned about, hey, what you're putting out there will come back to you. And I really studied that. I reread that book a couple times, and I started applying the tools, the principles that she was teaching. And slowly I was, because I say that forgiveness is your key to freedom. If you cannot forgive, then you know what, it's really difficult to move on. And I knew that, if I'm gonna store the negative feelings, those negative emotions within me, I felt it with my body that I was not myself. I had no energy, I had no clarity. I was in this dark place. I was always focusing on the negative, and that's what I was living in.
That is so profound and important for people to remember, because ultimately, anger, hatred, jealousy, these are all punishments we give ourselves for the actions of other people. So we allow ourselves and give permission for others to continue to harm us. And by forgiving, it's freeing. You leave that scenario, and in your mind and in your heart and your spirit, you move on. And I'm so glad to hear that you've gotten to that space. And now you want to turn around and pass that on to other people so that people know how to build resilient relationships. And when it hits roadblocks, how to navigate it. How is that coaching practice going, and who are the typical clientele that comes to you for help?
Dr. Katz, before also, I forgot to answer your question as well. My relationship with my children is amazing. My goodness, every time I see him, we do so many amazing things. Same thing, my relationship with my former wife. We are really good friends right now. And you know what? Whatever happened between us, that's the past. We're moving on. And she's actually, part of my support system as well, and so on. But who do I help? Who do I, as I was going through this journey, and I was saying that, when I hired that coach, when I invested in myself, in self-development, and with my mindset, because I always wanted to learn about that, is when he helped me in those 6 months with the tools, with the techniques, right, and with the daily routine that I have developed and what I have been doing 4 years, right? That's what I coach right now, my clients, is I've seen the results, how I was able to rebuild myself where I am today, right? How I have rebuilt myself, how I have healed, how I have forgiven, I have moved on. And as I did that to myself, and I look back, I look at the statistics in the United States, there is someone every 39 seconds that is getting divorced. 48% of people in the United States are getting divorced. It's very sad that many families, children will be living without their parents, without their mom, or without their dad. How much emotional distress, how much trauma is that being caused onto those children? So who do I help? I help men, women, pre, during, and after divorce, throughout the whole process. I got a special certification as well through a special school, accredited school. And that's what I do right now. That's what I help, because, my goal is to globally create a community, to create for men, women, where they have space, where they can come in, and be surrounded by like-minded individuals, people, men, women, because I work right now with many experts, that are my support team, that went through divorces as well, that know that feeling. What did it take for them, to go through, and how they were able to heal, rebuild. And now we are joining forces to globally help, every single man and woman out there. Obviously, I cannot do this all by myself, but, with your help as well, with your team help as well, we're building something amazing, because you know what? We need more help. We need more resources out there to help our broken society, help our broken communities, help men and women that are dealing with traumas, that are afraid for asking for help.
Absolutely. And I am so proud of the human being that you are today. And I'm so happy we are doing work together, and we will be doing more impactful work together in the future. I want to make sure our audience know how to get a hold of you, how to connect with you, and how to reach out for your services and your help. So go ahead and share with us the ways in which folks can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So The easiest way would be on my social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Just type in my first and last name. I have a website as well, which is www.coachmarcin.com. You can go to my website. You can book a 30-minute consultation session. I would love to know you, see what are some of the challenges, what are some of the struggles, some of the fears that you're going through that you need help with, right? And I'm going to tell to this person who is listening, watching us today, that you know what, it doesn't mean when you do ask for help that you're weak, that you are coward. No, that means that you are strong, that you do care about yourself, because you know what, you are a very powerful human being. You are loved. There are so many people that love you, that care about you, and you deserve to live the best lifestyle. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a complete family, and you don't have to do this alone. We are here for you. Dr. Cass, the community that we're building, we are here for you. And we want you to know that we care about you. You're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you for that real words of support, Marcin. And the joyful thing for me is you and I are going to use this as a starting point for launching a new podcast come January. Our 2024 mission as Cass and Marcin, 2 immigrants in the United States, 1 Sri Lankan, 1 Polish, right? Different cultures, living in a third culture, but the human relationship and the human need to feel supported and cared for and loved and a sense of belonging, that is universal. And so the fact that we are going to have a podcast where we are going to create a supportive space, a inclusive space, a space of belonging to men and women who are empowered and who have the compassion and heart to support men to overcome some of the roadblocks put culturally in the way we raise our boys. That's universal. Anywhere in the world, that's how we're raising sons today, right? So yeah, right. How do we break that cycle and give men the opportunity to understand, actually understanding and accepting your emotions, and then dealing with it in a way that it doesn't completely paralyze you, and asking for help? That is real courage. It takes courage to lean in. It takes courage to ask for help. And it doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger. The same way we are teaching women, when you have goals and you go after your goals, it doesn't take away from your femininity. It makes you a strong, empowered woman, right? The same way you and I are going to, on the flip side, give the emotional resilience to men and create an empowering space for men. I am so honored to recommend Coach Marcin for anybody dealing with relationship conflicts. Please go get the help, because you deserve a conflict-free, peaceful existence.